If you do, it's usually, for most people, it shows up as red, and some people it shows up as black. For you, it might be turquoise. Who knows? But it's majority of people, it's usually red or black. You really do have two different levels of where you can see from. Once you see that, the next thing is to look to forget about all these other beams. You're only looking at this one now. You look to see these two little beams that are wiggling around there. And so you see the chakra point, and you see these little beams going like this. And now with your holding your hands over that, with your intention, you get those beams to connect to that. And they don't want to do it. And you've got to keep working with them until and a lot of times they'll connect, and they'll do it for like 2 seconds, and go, ha, and they'll break apart and start going away. So you just keep doing it until you get them to connect, and then you got to hold it there for, it depends on the person, but at least a minute, and maybe even 2 minutes, until you can see that they're not going to break apart. And then when you feel that they're not going to break apart, and you've got them there, then with your intention, you pull the beams out from the palms, you pull them out, and they will follow right behind your hands as you go, and go beyond the sphere, because once they get to where the sphere is, they will stop. And so you go out this far out, say, you can go past it a few inches. Won't matter. Wouldn't matter if you went that far out. Just have to get out farther than 1 hand length away from this. You pull them out, they'll come out. There's no sphere here now. There's just these two beams sitting there. And when you get them out, the next thing you do is you shift your attention to the very ends of these things, and they're pulsing. They're throbbing. So once you pull them out and you feel you've got to feel this pulsing, and for me, I feel it in the palms. Well, what it is they're pulsing like a ping pong match. Pulse, 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 back and forth. You don't want that. With your intention, you've got to get them to pulse the same. And so what happens is you're putting your attention in there to pulse the same, and you might go for 30 seconds, nothing happens, and then it goes through a moment of chaos, and the pulsing, which was going pulse, 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 and then it goes pulse, 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 pulse. It kind of goes crazy for a moment, and then pulse, pulse. They're pulsing the same. As soon as they are, you count the pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the Mayans say you wait until you get 20 pulses. I don't know if it's because of their 2013 systems and all that other stuff, but they say 20 pulses will stabilize. I go up to like 25. Make sure. But you have to do at least 20 pulses, and when you feel 20 pulses or more on there, you can drop your hands, and this beam will be connected in here, and it'll just stay there. And then you go around to the back of the person next to get to the side beams, because that's number 2. And you get to these beams on the side. Now, where it is, again, it's not the temples, but if you go right to where your ear comes to your head, it's just a little higher and maybe just a little tiny bit in front. And so you go behind the person and you repeat what you just said. You see the little fuzzy things. If they're off center, you just pull them back with your intention, get them where they are. Feel which is weaker, get that weaker one, talk to the body, get it to come out to there, do the other one out to there. Put your hands on the palms on the person's head or on your own head if you're doing it. And look inside and see and you can see inside your own head looking with your eyes closed. and you'll see the pineal chakra, you'll see the little beams, you've got to get them to connect. Once they're connected, then you pull the beams out on either side. You do the pulsing thing again. They'll be going back and forth. You've got to stop that with your intention, get it to pulse the same, count 20 or more, and then you can drop that one. Then you come to your third eye, this beam, this level one running across here. And you do exactly the same thing. And then this one will happen automatically. And then you should not have to do this one. If you have to do this one, it's a little awkward in the sense that you have to do it here, but you can only reach this at the perineum. There's no other way. It's a long ways in, but to reach up through the tube is the only way you can get to this point because it's in the middle of your throat. And but it's not likely that you'll even see anybody in your lifetime that has to do that. But just so you know, you can't reach this point from here. You have to reach it all the way from the breathing tube at the perineum. Once these are out and running, they will. What happens in actual practice, when you do it to someone else, is a lot of times they'll run for about 10 or 15 minutes and collapse, and you have to do it all over again. Usually, the second time will hold, and at which point it will go for quite a while. I don't really know how long. A long time. But really this system, to get these out, you only have to do it about 2 weeks, every day for about 2 weeks, and it's permanent. It won't go away after that. But it doesn't do a lot of function, even though it's out there and running. It's very much like the Merkaba field. The Merkaba field doesn't do much until everything is lined up at once. I used to actually find people in the audience that had really bad migraine headaches, and I would work on them, because when you do this, the migraine goes away. If you have migraines all the time, you're in luck. Because if you do this and you establish these things, you're more than likely you're going to find that your migraines stop, unless it's caused by a physiological thing, something like a tumor or something. But if it has any emotional base in it at all, it's just going to go away. They just stop, as long as you keep the beams out. Bronnikov in Russia, Moscow.
In one of your books, that is Psychic Children in Russia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what he's doing in his work. He takes blind children and teaches them to see. He takes people who are totally blind and teaches them how to read, watch television, and drive cars. And it's hard to believe, but it's true. And I've been involved with people that are totally blind. I mentioned Marianne Shinfield a long time ago. Marianne Shinfield was completely blind. She was in her 50s, but you would never know she was blind by interacting with her, because she seems totally normal. But she actually has no eyes at all, and she could see. NASA's taken her now. I'll probably never see her again. They didn't believe her. They asked her, "Where are you?" And she said, "Well, I'm actually floating around the solar system most of the time." And I'm sure they internally kind of laughed at her. And then they said, "Well, if you're really floating around the thing, then we want you to go to a certain satellite up there and read the serial number off of it." And she did. And that caught their attention. And so they use her as eyes to go out and see, because she can go to Mars or anywhere and just go right down to something and look at it and tell them what they see. And she's very good. And I've been with her I spent 3 or 4 months with her, and got to do what she got to do, and it was fun. And I learned a lot from her. But more recently, I was with the Navajo, and with one of the shamans there, and I took a group into Antelope Canyon, which is on Navajo land. You have to get their permission, and so he took us there, and he is also a shaman. And we were there with his 2 aunts, I think they were, these 2 women that were a little older than him, and so he led us through the canyon. He gets to the other side. He tells us all these stories and things. He comes in and he sings peyote songs to us. And he takes us outside on the other end, and then there's a natural-looking snake that was not carved that points to the entryway to this place. And he's showing everything, where the snake is and the eyes and all this stuff like that. And all the group is looking. And one of the aunts come over. She's got her arm around me like this. And she leans over and says, "Isn't it amazing?" And I said, "What? What's amazing?" And she says, "Oh, well, our nephew is blind. He can't see anything, but you can't tell. And so I didn't know that about him. It was funny going back after he just told me that, and he's driving a pickup truck. And I'm in the back of his pickup truck. I got a blind guy driving over the road there. Life is weird. But boy, can he see internally. When we do shamanistic work, he is the most visual person I've ever seen inside. He can appear to me better than anybody I've ever seen. But in my conversation with a lot of these psychic kids, they're pulling the energy in through the fourth and fifth lumbar, and they know it. It's coming in at 90 degrees, and it goes up straight up the spine. I don't see that anywhere else. So maybe they have some other way of linking the brain to the heart. But once we reach puberty, we have to do this.
When you're doing this to someone else, are you physically or internally seeing their chakra? Yeah. Or are they seeing it with the little fuzzies?
No, you have to see it. They don't have to see it.
Okay, so you have to see it.
You're actually doing it for them. But if you're doing it yourself, on yourself, you have to see your own, you have to see this going on inside your own head. And you can do that.
Okay.
We begin with this beam, number 1. We then go to 2, left and right. Then 3, third eye, and then 4 you don't have to do. And so the procedure is, again, you either can see or sense or feel these things. And it's easier on yourself sometimes than it is others, because you're just going to be reaching up here, right in your own head. And you grab these things. If you're not sure, just use your intuition and just do the best you can. This works on most people, even if they don't really know how. It's because of the gland that we're working with. This pineal gland is a pretty interesting thing. It functions through intention more than anything else. So you, beginning with here, you will work on this one as 1, 2, and 3. So it's up high on your head. And you need to find that spot, and you need to find the spot back here to begin with. And you need to know where this left and right one is, just right where your ears come out. It's just a little bit higher and a tiny bit forward. And if you just kind of aim toward the center of your head, you're going to get there. Remember, the pineal chakra is in the center of your breathing tube. So you're really kind of aiming for the center of everything. The pineal gland itself is just a little bit back from there. And then this spot here is just 1. You just go up 1, and that's where it is. This is where your third eye is. The pineal gland should be, from what I'm being told, exactly the same size as one of these eyes. And more round, etc. The pineal gland is an eye, literally, right. Scientifically. It is hollow. It has color receptors inside of it. It has a lens on it for receiving light. And that is Jacob Liberman's work with light, the medicine of the future. And he's one of the most advanced people in the eyes and light in the world. Yeah. But it's entropy down to like a P or something. We haven't used it. I believe that if you start using it, it's going to grow. It's going to get, just like a muscle or anything else, it's going to get stronger. But the thing is the lens is facing up this way. It's looking right up the tube. And it's designed to receive light from above. And these eyes are facing at 90 degrees looking out this way. And so our lenses are, but it is literally an eyeball. It has other functions, but that's one of them. One of the things that when I was working with Jacob Liberman, that he showed me, which was really amazing. This guy really knows a lot about this. But they've tracked exactly when light goes in the eyes, exactly where it goes, and precisely the whole method. But right after it leaves the pineal gland, it literally, according to Jacob Liberman, it goes to every single cell in the body. And he says, from the way that they see it now, Every cell in your body is looking at exactly what you're looking at. And that changes things about all these guys in here are looking at what I'm looking at. He says the light actually enters into every single cell.